my God, this is happiness. Today promises to be a very spiritual van trip. We, Sam and myself, have come to the forest because we have a big question. And it is a question from one of you, lovely people. And this question has to do with the relationship that we have with our life and how that relationship can be a positive one. It can be the relationship that we want. This is a question to bring to the forest. We need the wisdom of the trees for this one. In order to seek that wisdom, I'm going to need a very beautiful nighttime routine that's going to bring me down into a space of calm so that I'm going to be able to receive the wisdom from the forest. So that's where we're going to begin, my friend. We're going to begin with a beautiful nighttime routine. It's Friday evening. I've had a very stimulating week. I've been online every day. I've been having really exciting group coaching sessions with my clients, one-to-one sessions as well. And so the first thing that I need to do is really drop into the stillness of my soul. Sam and I are going to be heading out into the forest to really begin that first step of a beautiful evening routine, which is connection with nature and movement. I find myself being exquisitely grateful that I can be in a moment and look around me and really absorb the beauty that is being shown to me. And I find that when you can be really present with the scenery of nature that's around you and like really specifically imagine opening your heart, it literally is like you've stepped through a doorway into the present moment. And I feel that joy begin to open up my heart. It draws my attention away from my head and all of the thoughts that I might have, particularly when I do finish the week, because I often think to myself, oh God, did I check my email that last time? Like, what if I left something and it's going to sit there over the weekend? Thoughts which I know have absolutely no grounding in reality, but are simply based on the frightened version of me that was a child at school and was just so afraid of getting into trouble. But when I come out here and I just really connect with that beauty of the present moment, nothing bothers me. And I remind myself that there is something so much bigger than the anxious turmoil of my mind. And all it requires is for us to really trust that nature holds the key for our happiness, the planet's happiness. We're heading back now after a really special time walking through the forest, just really noticing things that were catching my attention that then were able to bring me joy. And this is the spot that I'm going to come tomorrow with the big question, but I'm not going to go down there today. I'm really going to leave it as a totally new experience because it's been a while since I've come to this part of the forest, so I want to feel really fresh. So I'm simply going to wander past and head back to the van. Next part of the evening routine is to really take my time preparing a beautiful meal. It's all going to be plant-based tonight, and it's really lovely to be in such a simple location with the door open to nature and to just really have that silence and to take time preparing a meal. No devices, no music, nothing to listen to, but literally just the birds tweeting outside. Any chefs watching? I guess I probably want to say look away now, because as much as I absolutely love cooking and really do try to cook the majority of my food from scratch, I don't have any kitchen techniques, and in fact this knife is pretty dud. Here's the thing, when I'm trying to drop into peace and I've had a really busy week, there can be this temptation to want to just eat junk because my system is really enraged by being too stimulated from the online world. But it's so important at that stage to eat really nutritious whole food that's going to calm my system down. And I'm just snacking on some watermelon while I cook. This was one of the design features about the van that was such a beautiful thing for me. Like, I love how all of this space is completely open, but when I want to sit down and eat, I simply do this. making this decision to buy a van and really using the van as that means to come into the forest. Like for me, it's like finish work and then come into the forest for that ultimate wind down. Even if it's just a night a week, like for me, it's absolutely essential for my soul. And so right now, as I sit here with this beautiful, simple, whole food, and I've had this incredible wind down, like this evening routine is just so gorgeous to me. It totally brings me back to self, and it just opens up my heart and makes me feel so incredibly grateful to have this life. It kind of helps that the food is delicious too. What I'm going to do now is make a cup of herbal tea and just sit down and do 15 minutes of journaling. For me, I find this a really beautiful part of my evening routine. Sometimes when I'm journaling, I might use a tarot card. Like if I'm really struggling to reflect on the day, like if I've got to a place where it's the end of the day and something's really triggered me and I feel uber stressed and I'm kind of like, oh God, my whole life is falling apart. Like for me, that's a very common place for me to go, like a real depth of despair. And people are often quite surprised to hear that because they're like, you're on the spiritual path, you're a life coach. But the thing is, we have these automatic thinking patterns and they're ingrained in our mind. And for me, I have an automatic thinking pattern, which is total despair. So if I find myself really being sucked into that thinking pattern, I find it really useful to pull a tarot card, and that just helps. Again, it helps give me a signal that there's something greater than me, that I'm living in this beautiful constellation of magic. But today, like I said earlier, I'm feeling really blissful. This whole evening routine has really settled me down. Coming to the forest after a busy week is just the ideal way to drop down into myself. So I'm just feeling to sit and take 15 minutes to just journal and reflect, and then I'll do some meditation. That was a really special meditation. I've never had this experience before, but as I was exhaling, I was, depending on which chakra I was focusing on, I could see the particular colour associated with that chakra coming out in my exhale, like smoke. It was really cool. It's a little after 5, which is a really perfect time to wander into the forest and get spiritual. So I'm going to share the full question with you so that it really helps me set my focus for the journey into the forest today. Instead of relationships with other people, what about our relationship with life? When we're struggling and we feel like there's no hope, or that we're not good enough, or that life is just too damn hard, how can we change our perspective, recognize that we're projecting a mindset, and change our relationship with life so that things ultimately become easier and we can flourish? Because of all those horses, what Sam did is he actually ran back to the van. He got kicked by a horse last time we were in the forest, so he was a little bit nervous. So I went back to the van and just gently got him. And I can see now he's just sticking close to me, which is fine, but I wanted him to be out here with us as we grabbed this wisdom. Was a really beautiful, funny and interesting experience. When I was standing and looking at the tree, I was really reflecting on how we can have this projection or this perspective of our life that there is no hope, that we aren't good enough. And I could just notice all of the unusual growth patterns that the tree had. And I had a sense of like, oh, this tree's been through it. And what it really said to me was, there is no perfect life, there is no perfect way through life. This tree's had challenges that have affected the way that it's grown. And as I came to really be with the tree, to really sense it and to really tune in with whatever it might have to offer me, I noticed as I came and was really just breathing and really tuning in, my mind was incredibly anxious and worrying, and it was afraid. And in that moment, I thought to myself, oh, this is unusual. Now, this was huge. Here's the reason why. I do have anxiety and I do get afraid and I do put a lot of pressure on myself. But I have the ability to look at all of those things and think to myself, how unusual. And I think this for me is the key, because if we are so accustomed to not feeling good enough, if we are so accustomed to feeling hopeless, we're not going to catch it. We're not going to say, oh, this is a strange thing for me to be feeling. We're simply going to be like, yeah, this makes sense. I always feel like this because this is how life is. This is how the world is. So because it's so familiar, we don't question it. We don't think, oh, hang on a second, what's going on here? And the reason that that shift has come for me is because of my meditation practice. And it's because in my meditation practice, what started to happen was small experiences of happiness or small experiences of clarity. So in those moments, I would think to myself, oh my God, this is the truth of the moment. Oh my God, this is the real me. Oh my God, this is happiness. So then what started to happen when I began to slip back into that familiar, and we call it the default way of thinking. We've become so accustomed to feeling hopeless. We've become so accustomed to thinking that life is hard, that it's default. It happens automatically in our mind. But because I started to have things that contrasted this, I started to have experiences of the true me. And in my meditation, the true me would appear as this dazzling shape of light, and I would feel my heart burst open with profound love. And I would think to myself, I'm so powerful, I'm a magical being. And the experience was so exquisite that there was absolutely no doubt that it was true. It wasn't like what happens when I'm in my ego and I'm trying to be confident and I'm trying to think positively. Then I'm just up in my head, and what's happening is in my body I'm still feeling crap, and so I don't believe it. My body is basically refuting the positivity in my mind, going, oh yeah, well if you were so amazing, why would I feel so shit? But in meditation, when I'm tuned in and I'm really connected to the soul within me, the explosion of physical exquisiteness is undeniable. And so it totally dissolves any doubt or fear or sense of hopelessness in my mind. Now, here's the thing. So far, it doesn't last for me, but what it does give me is somewhere to go back to. So when I catch myself in a negative mindset, I'm able to say, hang on a second, this is unusual now, because what I've been doing is cultivating the other mindset. So let's come back to this question, this idea of projection, because this is what happens. If we've got fear or hopelessness or a sense that we're not good enough or an experience that life is hard, just in the same way that we go to the cinema and we see the film projected on the screen, that's what we do with life. With all of our experiences and our negativity, we project that onto life. And so what we're seeing is not the truth of the present moment or reality, but we're seeing our projection of fear or hopelessness or despair onto that moment. And because the brain has something that's called a reticular activating system, or RAS, this is the part of our brain back here towards the brainstem that takes an instruction for the brain, and that reticular activating system then focuses on what the instruction is. So this is how projection takes place. I'm instructing this reticular activating system to only focus on things that are going to reaffirm my sense of hopelessness. That I only want to see evidence that I'm not good enough. And so we're looking out and we're seeing an argument that life is crap, that life is hard, that we aren't good enough, and it's very difficult to get out of it. That's why meditation is so important. Taking these moments, as I've taken with this van trip, to actually really tune back into like what's actually real, and to understand that we have to free ourselves from this incessant thinking of the mind and find the space in between the thoughts. And that's where, just like the sun finds a gap in the tree coverage and is able to shine through, that's exactly what happens. We find a space in that incessant negativity or hopelessness of our thoughts, and we literally feel the golden glow of that present moment. I'm just heading back to the van. A couple of other things that I've been reflecting on in terms of this experience with the tree. And there was a moment when I was with the tree, and this was after that sort of deluge of quite anxious, negative thinking that came upon me, was I heard this name, Rocky, and it really made me laugh because the tree has got all of these kind of gnarled features to it. And of course I thought of Sly Stallone and his character Rocky, and how completely beaten up the character gets. And it made me chuckle, because it just never would have occurred to me to make that connection between the character Rocky and the tree. But again, it felt like a really beautiful metaphor to this idea that we just keep getting up. And the reason that we do that, even when life knocks us down, is because we've just got so much faith in the prize that lies ahead. And so that's where our attention has to be. And I think in terms of this tree experience, as I'm learning, each time I encounter an interaction with a tree, it's different and I'm learning something new. It isn't something that I can second guess. Like, firstly, when I was with the tree and I had this kind of deluge of anxiety and fear and negativity, it really took me by surprise. I was like, what on earth is this? Like, I don't usually get an experience like this when I come with a tree. But again, what really dropped in was this idea that we get what we need. We get what we need to either impart knowledge or wisdom to others, or for our own sakes. And so I'm just feeling really, really grateful about the beautiful morning that I've spent in the forest today, that I got what I needed. And I hope those of you listening who found that question to be relevant for you too, found something to take away in the wisdom that we all received today.